Wow.
Yeah, that's Star Power. Good afternoon. It's Friday, April 14th, Seven Institutions, 1 o'clock. We're going to start the day off with conversations with Commissioner of Department of Fish and Wildlife, Mr. Christopher Herrick. Welcome, Mr. Herrick. How are you?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just for the record, it's in my district. Oh, good.
He doesn't vote for it. What's scary is he knows how I vote. For the record, I'm Christopher Herrick. I am the Commissioner of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Thank you for allowing me to come in.
No problem. So, Commissioner, we are kind of squaring up the Capitol bill here, and we had talked to you when we first came in and spoke about the request and all that. And since then, it's changed. We see that you've been cut by the House by $600,000.
Wow.
And just as much as anything is, I think that you used to have 3 or 4 lines in there, and they combined them down to 1. So just trying to figure out, one is, why did they just put you down on 1 line, and does that hurt you? Does that help you? And the other is, $600,000 is a pretty good clip, and maybe if there was a need for, if we could find some monies in that budget to help restore some of that, if you could just let us know about that stuff.
Sure. So when we first presented the Capitol, the governor's ask, the total for the biennium was $3.622 million, broken up over 2 years, 2.278 the first and 1.34 the second. And what's currently budgeted is the amount that reflects that $600,000 reduction. So the initial ask was to address the following. Replacing roofs on the camps at Buck Lake. And that's one of our 2 very successful conservation camps that Fish and Wildlife operates. And we see roughly 900 campers go through there in a year, in a summer. The other thing I'll tell you about it is it's a feeder program for our staff. I think Mark Scott went to either Keogh or Buck Lake when he was a kid. So that's, before fire was invented, but it's really important. But we need to replace the roofs. Otherwise, the damage is just going to continue to get worse. The other is improving public access for wildlife management areas, of which there are around 104 statewide, and we maintain those. And so we're trying to increase accessibility for folks, whether it's on foot or not requiring a 4-wheel drive truck to get in and access some of these beautiful spots, because it is our mission to make these lands more accessible to as many people in the state of Vermont as possible. Infrastructure and maintenance of our fish and wildlife buildings, and we use these to house some of our equipment, whether it's tractors, other things we use to maintain our fishing accesses and our WMAs and all the other lands that we own. Improvements to the hatcheries. We have 5 fish culture stations. The programs are very successful. Shooting range improvements, and then access area infrastructure improvements. These are our fishing access areas, and we utilize capital funds again for accessibility. Many of our docks are ADA compliant, and we're continuing to improve that number, that percentage, as we go through time. So the department appreciates the flexibility, though, of having these funds assigned and collapsed into 1 line item. Because I'm sure you've heard from other agencies, including AOT, contracting and contracts are so variable right now due to inflationary tendencies and other materials acquisition. So having the ability to move around in a bigger line is much more amenable to the department. I'm not coming in today to ask you to restore that full $600,000, but something around half of that would allow us to continue to meet our missions. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Mindy?
Sure, just, what would you not do if that 600,000 is cut?
So we're probably going to have to put off some of the work at the hatchery. And we actually haven't gotten down into that nitty gritty. We did, but when I built the budget, I asked my staff to prioritize projects. And so it's some of these less flashy projects, probably the maintenance, buildings, things like that would fall off, but eventually it's one of those, you pay me now or pay me later.
Well, it's gonna get worse later.
That-
That's
Yeah.
all.
I can tell you the roofs are gonna happen.
They're not going away. They have to.
That is a must. And that, we budgeted 400,000. That could bloom, I have no idea.
What was the reasoning for taking 600? Other than taking needed money, did they give you any specific reasons why?
No, they did not.
Okay. You just took it? Yeah, okay. Just curious.
And I understood that we probably were gonna take a haircut. I mean, I know money's tight, and that's why I'm not asking for a full reinstatement.
Sure. Committee, any more questions?
I think it's our job to look carefully at where we can do something, because if that's the reasoning, we've got to have our reasoning of why we should we steal 100,000 here, 50,000 there. It's our decision to make, not theirs, but I just wondering why they took such a big hit with spending in other areas. I hate postponing repairs, capital improvements, because they just get worse. And then you have water leaks, you have this, you have that, and it costs you twice as much in the future.
That's right.
If you're buying, 20 new trucks, that'd be different. You're using it a different.
Yeah. And, of course, I think a tractor is a purchase, that's in here, but we don't buy trucks in our capital, and just since you brought it up, we have had a hard time acquiring vehicles.
Sure.
So our vehicle maintenance costs have skyrocketed, just to go to the point that you're making. So you're absolutely right, Senator.
Okay, well, we appreciate you coming in. We're gonna continue to drill down through here, and we're gonna see if we can't maybe help out with that a little bit. And,
Appreciate anything you can do, and if you have any further questions, I think you know how to get a hold of me.
Okay,
And enjoy this is a great weekend if you don't have your fishing license. It's time to get
You
it.
have to have a licensed fisher along.
You don't.
Fish.
I don't.
You're not catching.
I think, Senator, you're closing in on the age, probably not there yet.
Oh.
When you're over 65, 66, you can get your license for free.
I got a hunting license years ago, and the fishing is good free too. Is it hunting and fishing? I think I got one somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, see,
I thought
now when you go out, you're not breaking the law anymore.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it very much.
See, Chris.
Okay, committee, we wanted to talk with, Trevina. Joe Asia's here as well, and we wanted to talk about section 22 concerning correction facilities and the missions that have been kind of laid out in some of this capital bill, and just kind of get what their thoughts were with that. So on to section 22 that we go in the bill, which is on page 33. Trevina, how are you? Good. What page did you say? 33.
Yeah. That's section 23. You said section 22.
I thought it was 22.
Yeah, but it is section 22. Well, you're on the wrong one. I think that as house passed. As house passed. There's another one right here. Yeah.
That's probably the one I took home.
Okay. Yeah. Here, you can look at it right here.
That's right.
So, basically, I guess what we started down the path with yesterday, Trevina, is, we wanted to make sure that between DOC and BGS, that the missions, that we're seeing in this capital bill, like design of correction facilities, use of evidence-based design principles for wellness environments. And we wanted to know, I guess this committee probably is, out of all the things in this bill, are probably pretty sensitive to this new structures that we're gonna try to put forth for the women's facility. But we're also wanna be responsive to what is possible and what is not possible, and handicapped. And we don't want to handicap anybody by language when and if you're not able to do with what they're asking to do. So one of the things that we'd like to do, I think this committee was probably all in lockstep favor of, is the model in Maine. We had some senators go and visit it. We have pictures of it. Both of you went, right? Or just, okay, just Senator Harrison went.
But I
So,
haven't been to the Chinden one, and you have been to that one long ago.
And so-
It's not worse.
So we're kind of just in here mainly to see is a lot of this language, is this something that you guys are prepared to do and able to do in design construction? So, as in, departments of building and services shall coordinate with Department of Corrections on the design and planning for any maintenance, renovation, or constructions to a state corrections facility to ensure that evidence-based design principles for wellness environments are incorporated into the designs and planning phases of the project. And then, it goes on in several different areas to talk about that. So is that something you can do?
Yes, so we use the terms trauma-informed and gender responsive when we're talking about Department of Corrections. It's come from healthcare, which is where you get that wellness piece. This design concept started with hospital design, wellness design. And so that it means the same thing, it's the same, it's the same concepts, but when we're talking about corrections, and corrections prefers to use trauma-informed and gender responsive.
So I think one of the things I was reading yesterday, when we touched on this just a little bit, because we knew that you were going to probably be coming in today, and we wanted to make sure when we had the commissioner here that we were, touching on their side of it as well. Would we be as wise to not only include their language in there and your language in there, the two different definitions of how we do that, or you're fine with the language?
Yeah,
that
like I
you
said, it means, it's the same concepts, it means the same thing.
Okay. Yes, Joe.
For the record, Joe Aja, Director for Design and Construction, Buildings and General Services. I think it would be good just to make sure that everybody is certain that, Department of Corrections is using the terminology a little bit different, and the language that's in the bill is similar. But I don't know if there's a way to put a definition in the front end of the top section of that just, notes that, so that everybody is on the same page, so that we don't have any issues along those lines. But as Tarina said, they're basically the same thing. But I know Corrections has said they're going to be using the trauma and gender form, so I just want to make sure that language is there. I think that it would be a good idea.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Joe. Anytime you can provide clarity in a bill, it's usually a good thing. I'm not sure what trauma-informed means. I think I know what gender-informed means, but can you help me out at all with that?
And so, like I said, these are basically the same concepts. Trauma-informed, you're basically just, you're creating a calm environment, and you create that by natural light, fresh air, connected to nature, thermal and acoustical comfort, the ability to control those things. Sound is very important. I mean, those are the same concepts that you use when designing a hospital wellness space.
I don't suppose we'd have much success trying to convince DOC to move to your language, but I do see a benefit, so that if somebody's reading this, even if you had to use a section with definitions, at least they would understand that we are talking about getting the same results with the same methods. I think
Yes.
that's important.
Linda, do we have DOC coming in too?
Today, no, they couldn't come
No.
till next week.
Next week, okay. So we'll check with them as well.
Yeah.
As far as
I would second that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. I like the idea of having definitions in a bill. I know that's probably not typical for a capital bill, but
well,
when we're using phrases that are new to a lot of us and a little squishy maybe, I'd love to see all those terms defined, if it's this equals this and they both mean this or something. Going forward, maybe it's defined in the healthcare side.
Right. Trauma-informed and gender responsive, those are corrections terms, and they also have speak to the corrections policy a little bit, not just the design, where evidence-based for wellness does not speak to that corrections operations kind of thing.
So just so that I'm aware and how it goes, and to make sure that we just don't go down the wrong path and ask you questions that you really can't, you know, or whatever, and somebody else is gonna have to answer them. And it's not that we're trying to avoid stuff like that, but we just want to be informed as a committee. You basically, DOC works out the strategy of what they want the design to be, and then BGS will come behind it, and BGS will build that building in that way. And all the conversations that you folks are having with DOC are all along these lines. I mean, everybody's on board with that. DOC's on board with that. They're not talking about another alternative of if we're able to purchase land and to get all the permits and all the requirements, and we get to a build phase of a structure for women's and the reentry facility. This is the language that everybody's using.
That's correct. This is the concept that DOC wants to build this facility using. DOC is our client, and BGS facilitates what DOC wants to have as a program into it.
And I hate to keep on drilling down into this, but it's very important to us because once we put this in a bill's form, everybody's stuck to that language unless we have, unless somebody gets, along the way. So that's why we're being very careful. I mean, we are hoping, this is what I think I can speak for the committee broadly, that we were hoping that this is the type of conversation that we're going to have. And so this is what this bill is going to say. So, we'll check with DOC to make sure too, but this is the way that this bill is headed, and this is the language we're going to put in there, and that's the type of facility that the public's going to expect to see. And so changes after this fact are going to be hard to be made when we have this bonded dollars to put this facility into play as being described.
I think one of the big issues is going to be the determination of how large to build it or how
Yeah.
small to build it. That's going to be, that's a hard one to pull it.
Right.
How many are you going to house? Is it going to be built for 100 or 40 or 70 or, because there's a change in population. It's changed a lot. Like I said, I could remember we only had 60, 70 incarcerated. Now it's over 100, right?
108, 100 and
I don't know what today's count is, but it is
I'm
going
just
up.
saying, when it was first established for the women's, I think it was in the 60s, and since then the population has grown a lot. And you got new features, you got your baby, your child coming in to visit. There's a lot of stuff we can do. That place was built 100 years ago. It was a terrible place for men over the years. Now women are there, so.
And so we would use this trauma-informed, gender-responsive concept regardless of the hardness of a facility. That does not necessarily dictate the hardness of a facility. There are things we can do in any hardness to meet these requirements. And this is just the way we design facilities now. We design the recovery residents using these same concepts. And so we would be doing this regardless of specific, if there was no language.
Changing times.
It's just, yeah, that's the way it's done now.
Just a comment on, the number, the capacity, basically. Because I think when the women's prison was first built, I think the detainees were not there. So I know that the sheriffs took care of that for a while. And that was a long time ago, but now the detainees are there, and I really think we should have a conversation.
I was thinking,
About that.
the women's facility was not designed to house women, it was designed as a short-term facility, and I think actually it was designed for a detention facility because it was for a detainee population, because it was a
So
short-term.
we moved the
We
detainees.
moved around the
That's
population
even
so
worse.
much
Yeah.
that, and that's why that Chittenden has no program space, because you weren't there for a long period.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest battle that we're gonna face. I mean, I think one of the most striking comments made by the director from Maine, sorry, I can't remember. Amanda, is size doesn't equate bed count. I mean, there's so much more into now. I mean, that's the problem with the Chittenden facility. Yeah, they can house that many people, but can they give them a quality of life while they're there? Which they can't. And
We took a
so.
gymnasium there a few years ago.
That's right.
Beds, so they lacked, that was back, when the men were there. I can't imagine they're doing that today, the women in the gymnasium. Where they are, I don't know.
It's still only half a gym.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
So, right, used it all, and then half of it is still for housing.
It's a terrible facility.
Those three, as it was mentioned, back when I started, Chittenden, St. John's, Barry, and Raleigh were regional, and a lot of the people, the residents that were there, some were there overnight, some were just on weekends, and some that did have to be locked up were actually going out to their day job sometimes, and or as work crews. And over time, that has changed. The population of the women have gone all around. They've been to St. Albans and they've been to Windsor and back to Chittenden. So they did have a wing for quite some time, just a wing in Chittenden for a number of years.
That's interesting. And then, so I guess someday we'll talk more about numbers and stuff, but will the trauma-informed and the gender-informed be used in men's facilities too?
Correct, yes.
And so even if, when we're not building new facilities, when we do renovations?
Yes, that's correct. That's,
Okay.
That's the policy now. That's what DOC has asked for, and that's what BGS has asked for.
Great.
But it would take a major renovation to incorporate some of these things.
I know.
What they like,
Well, when we were in Springfield, we saw a little bit of that. There was some art, but,
stuff like that,
but
they
it's
can
still
in color or
noisy.
paint, yes. That is the hardship, because
Yeah.
the way the old facilities were constructed,
Yeah.
with that not in mind. It was more of a hardened facility back in the day.
and it is. It remains art and just,
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But adding a little bit
Yeah.
of color to it does help.
yeah,
You know.
especially when they're part of the painting too, which I think was what was happening.
It's really frightening to think what we're putting women through in that facility. I know they're incarcerated, and I know they're there for a reason, but it's a different world today.
Oh, yeah.
We're not- It's terrible. Like I said, it wasn't built properly for men, but
Yeah.
it's been 50 years ago, 70s, 50 years. And we crammed men in there, stacked them in. We brought women there because they could have access to greater services in Chittenden County, which made sense at the time. But as far as updating it, wow, it's a crude place. It's just, I just can't wait for they get a facility that they can, because they're all gonna get out someday. We wanna make sure they get out with.
Many of them,
Many of them.
but I mean, there's hospice
Yeah, yeah.
care that we need to
Sure.
provide too.
It's
Yeah.
it's a sad situation. I sympathize when I have to see what's going on in that, but I think we're making progress with,
Yeah.
we're addressing the concerns. It's time. Thank you.
Well, I think we're all kind of happy that this language is gonna stay in the building, so that's what we're gonna use, and I'm sorry to bring you in just for that short little bit, but we just wanted to be sure before we had changed anything, and we're not changing anything, we're gonna keep it there. But
No, the good thing is we're doing it without the language, so
Good.
that's okay. It's an easy one we can.
Well, it's all great whenever it's buy-in from everybody.
You're policy informed.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people would probably don't say that about me, but.
Well, committee, do we have anything else for these two?
Chair, I just want to bring up the Walleye Association.
Okay,
Let me just give a little history of what I know about it.
you guys are all set. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
You were right.
Yeah.
On the doors, on the pictures, but I went into a
Oh,
red,
okay.
not the blue and whatnot, and Rita tells me it was wood. I remember metal.
So that is the secure facility? Good, thank you. It's inspirational.
We have a group of, volunteer-
I guess we're still talking.
we have a group of volunteer folks that work on the Walleye Association. They've been working for a little bit of funding we give them every year. And they replace thousands and thousands of dollars that the state doesn't have to do because they're interested in producing walleye in a safe manner and releasing them in the spring, whatever they do. They've been coming in here for years and years. They don't ask for much.
25,000, yeah.
And I just want to bring it to light that the money they save at the hatcheries runs into thousands of dollars because they're dedicated to meeting.
I wish I would have asked Chris Herrick that, I apologize,
Yeah,
he would have brought that up, yeah, my fault.
And for that money, I just want to make sure we consider.
Well, we,
I'm not a walleye fisherman or nothing like that, but I know what they've added to the cost factor of us. They've cut our costs down to that.
And they're not in the budget now.
no,
No, we put it in every year, standard procedures, because they do hours and hours and hours, weeks of, they do everything you possibly can ask for the walleye. And the hatcheries would be lost without them, telling you what they have, but they're dedicated folks, they've been doing this for years. And we couldn't replace them with $200,000. So I just want to bring it to the attention.
So is there room in the budget, do you think, for that this year?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, I thought they already were. no?
Well, they usually were, and somehow they didn't
Yeah,
get
somehow-
put in
okay,
here.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Oh, okay.
So I would say that if we're gonna do that, that we should probably add them in what, section 8?
Yeah, just, you know.
So let's add them in there.
As long as it's not my section report.
It's actually mine.
No, then
So
go for it.
walleye,
Oh, what
So-
department is that?
that's,
Fish and Wildlife?
yeah, walleye
And Chris
association.
would be the first to support it, and, because he knows the return on what we get, the beneficial factor that they offer. They're up at the hatchery, they experiment, they work there, I never met a group that's so dedicated.
You want it on a separate
So what
line?
did we give them? Did we give them 25 for the biennium?
Yeah, no,
25 each year?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so 25 and 25?
Yeah.
Okay,
In the house usually accepts it. because-
yeah, they always have. They always have. In fact, last year, they had missed their fundraiser for 2 years for COVID. We had given them 50 and they said, no, we don't need that. It was only because we missed their fundraising for 2 years, so we're gonna.
Anyway, it's just, I thought.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
Good idea.
I'm not a fisherman. I know,
All
I
right, good.
know that they return for us. It's a dollar spent, a $10 return.
Nice.
And everybody in the agency will tell you that, so,
Keep going.
that, so.
Okay, well, I'm
And we get to the bottom line,
Yes.
right, so we'll find 25,000 somewhere, because don't remember the house, and that is here and there, 25, not going to straight into the apartments.
So, Mr. Chair,
I would, excuse me, I like to see Chris get also.
Absolutely.
His money, because it's
Okay.
not waste.
Yeah, it's
Are
already,
you guys good with if we could go 200,000 on Chris's? I mean, we can't.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think.
so let's go back to him while we are all here on our charts. So let's do that.
I think we can close section 12. Didn't we? I have open written next to the dry hydrants.
Okay, hold on a second, let me get,
So it's number 69, line 69.
Which one?
Chris Harris.
So.
oh, you're on
so-
the same one I was just on, you bonehead. Okay, so we're gonna put, we're gonna add, so how do you wanna do that? Do we wanna put, that what do you guys think? You wanna split that 100,000 up on each biennium?
Well, the second.
I guess they
one
took it,
Is the same.
I guess they, yeah, they took it, okay, so they took it from, 24, okay, so we're gonna add that,
So add 200,000 to that.
yeah, so we're gonna go 1.878632, is that what you guys are reading?
That's what I understood.
Okay. So this is 400,000 difference. Okay. Okay, and, Brian, you were saying?
Well, I'm just looking ahead a little. So section 12, at one point, we had thought that maybe we could reallocate that 150 per year to the dry hydrants, but I think the House felt strongly that.
The House felt strongly about it, Senator Harrison feels strongly about it, so we're gonna leave that alone if that's okay. We took that,
So
right, and then
It's okay with me.
and so we took that, so we have that in there, we left that alone. And then we did give $100,000 more to the fairs, but we took that to the State House planning. And so basically what we have now is we should have $500,000 left out of the 750 that we took from the new pork. So does anybody have anything else that we think that we ought to take a peek at? It doesn't have to be decided today.
I just like to have a clear draft where we stand.
Yeah.
So then we can.
Right, maybe we can get
something clear.
get Dan to get us there. Yeah.
So far, the changes we made.
Right.
We can balance out.
Yeah.
Be clear, because we're working with 10 sheets of paper.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
That'd be really nice. Mr. Chair,
yeah,
if I was gonna make a pitch, I would
Yeah.
make a pitch for either the barn preservation grants or the historic preservation grants, because I don't think those have increased for a while.
okay,
But I'd like to ask the agency, and maybe they can't even handle more,
Okay.
but I suspect, last I knew, they received many more applications than,
okay.
they were able to.
Were you assured by the dry hydrant that they need this money? Did you talk to them?
Not recently.
Okay.
I can
I'd like to
contact
get an
somebody,
update on
or,
that.
or get them to
Cause
come.
some, yeah, or they could come, just so we, I don't wanna
Yeah.
shortchange them, but I also wanna make sure that they're doing what they have. If we can pick up
Right.
50 grand there, it's 50 grand. I don't know what it is, but there must have been a reason why, but they never asked us for, more. Not that everybody doesn't want more money. I'm just saying, everybody's gonna be, we gotta make sure we're close.
And we should make sure they have the
Okay, we're looking to-
capacity
Yeah,
to
the
spend
capacity,
it.
that's
We're
Yes.
looking to spend, so let's do that, okay, so Senator Harrison, who do you want to, so maybe we get these other groups in that we're looking to reallocate some
Yeah, I'd
money
like to
to.
confirm what they're after.
Yeah, maybe we can, Linda can, start and we can, so Senator Harrison, tell Linda what you were thinking.
It would be lines 43, 44, maybe 45. The historic preservation, the barn preservation, which I know those are handled by the same people who I'm not sure who they are right now. But I know they go together, and the cultural facilities grant program, they're all at 300,000, which doesn't go that far. But I see it as an economic development opportunity, and I know that they have been level funded for quite a while, so I'd like to get the staff's recommendations on whether or not they would be able to handle additional money and where they would recommend that we put it. Like, it could be that farms need more help than historic preservation.
So it's historic preservation they're also responsible for the barn fund?
Yeah.
They also do the barns.
Barns, they paint the barns.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's often roofs with the barns because that's what people saying.
And then we're gonna also get back in line 100, the dry hydrant people back in. And, let's do double check with them.
And honestly, if the dry hydrant people say no, they don't want the money, we don't need to waste their time.
Right. We'll get it.
Yeah.
We'll see how they
We'll
feel.
get them,
So,
it don't take long to get them. Senator Renner,
So I'm confused a little bit. When we restored the money for Fish and Wildlife, were we doing that under 17 or under number 8?
we're doing it under 8, where they took the 600,000 out
So
of
we're only giving them 2,200.
200,000, yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah,
this,
we're
and they
gonna-
also lost money under like line 181 in section 17. Is that something we need to restore?
Line 181,
182 and 181.
Oh, maintenance facility.
They lost money on, sorry, 182, they lost money. They lost,
well, what that is a cash, that's a cash version of it.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what he was saying, if we could go with a bond in dollars of it, the 200,000 for there. That's kind of, to be honest with you, when I saw that number, that's kind of why I had the 200,000 in my head, because I saw where it was coming from.
they
So
lost a
that's-
lot of money for
well-
guys that need to maintain these
They did.
with climate change. So I would
So
like to see a
pull it
little
out.
more money go to that.
Pull those out of the other one. That's my thought, was section 8.
So we're gonna have to do it in bonded dollars. We're gonna have to do it out of that part where it has. So let's put a note on that. Let's put a note on that. I'm not opposed to that at all.
69?
Well, let's just put a note that is where some funds that we have that you'd like to see more money to go there.
Okay.
Well, I guess what I'd like to do now is just identify places where we think that some more money can go. And then what we'll do is we get these people in and talk to them. We know what we have to work with.
Sure.
And then we'll discuss it as a committee, as we,
And also, wherever you think it should go, that's-
yeah, I mean,
About that.
don't be afraid, guys. We're going down through this and we're going down through this and, if there's some other areas.
And I'm with Wendy on the historic stuff. It's always nice to
Yeah.
go to the barns,
Yeah.
something that still looks like Vermont.
What about anything with the conservation districts? I can't find any action here.
Yeah, I don't know where they get that money. Is that
How
the big
about
building?
historical grocery store?
That's in the big building, and it's not capital. I-
No, it is.
Or historic grocery.
Expired, expired.
It's not in their ag,
It's
so-
the big mother retirement fund.
Yeah.
I mean, who could fund that?
Oh, God.
So right now I have historic preservation and the dry hydrant people.
Yeah, and when we do historic preservation, is that gonna bring all the players in, Wendy?
And that includes includes the barn,
Barnes too.
also, but it's
Is
just.
that same,
Or,
is
um,
that
Is
same
it
woman?
the same woman?
Yes,
I think it
Yeah.
was.
yes,
Okay.
but
Was it the
just,
same
just
one?
make sure
Yeah.
they know that we wanna care about.
Then we wanna talk, yeah, make sure we wanna talk about all the different
Well, we're
programs.
thinking about cuts.
Ah,
Yeah,
And that should be really happy.
Yeah.
I remember we were very non-committal last time she was in.
Yeah.
But that was like February, so a lot has changed since then.
It's a big hit. We have that penny to mine.
I don't wanna think about that.
No, I know,
Not till tomorrow.
I'm a big supporter, but what we're gonna do with it? It's falling down.
Maybe it'll fall down, we won't have to.
Turn it into a historic rock wall.
We have
I don't know
insurance.
what we can do with it.
It wouldn't be mine for a fire.
Isn't it insured? Falls down,
Would assume so. And
We'll see.
Well, if it leans a little bit, we'll be like we'll make it a world monument.
there you go, that
Yeah,
would be
Leaning
good,
Tower
right?
of Pisa, right?
Did you want it or what?
Yeah, that's a conundrum, but.
Okay, well,
Think about it.
you guys think about it, we're gonna get those other folks back in. We're still gonna be waiting on, appropriations when it's all said and done. Remember that there'll still be some battles, coming from the other side and, and all that. So what I'm trying to do is trying to keep the bonded dollars at a dead roar as far as, where it's gonna offend or not offend. So,
Okay.
we'll call it a day, unless anybody's got anything else to add. Call it a good Friday.